Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Kiyoko McCrate. I'm the Director of Documentary Programming at the New Orleans Film Society, and we are delighted to have Alan Brain here today, the Director of the Rumba Kings. Welcome, Alan.
Thank you.
To kick us off, I wanted to ask you about your connection to the story, how you decided to make this film, and if you could tell us a little bit about your time living in the Democratic Republic of Congo, working with the United Nations. What drew you to the story and made you want to make this film?
Well, thank you everybody for watching the film. I live in Congo for 7 years, working as a documentary filmmaker for the United Nations Mission for the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And at some point during my time in Congo, I got to be the singer of a rock band, like a kind of a classic rock band. We were doing Guess Who, Jethro Tull, the band was called the Wild Band. And then it very fast, transformed into a salsa orchestra with 13 musicians. Most of them were Congolese. It was a good orchestra. It was called Mundele et son Tobacco, which is called The Foreigner and His Tobacco. And it is one of the singers of that orchestra, a friend of mine, who one day he told me, Alan, we are always struggling with the sound, because we used to carry our own microphones and our own amplifier and speakers to get a good sound. And he said, we always struggle with the sound, but just some decades ago, we were the kings of Africa for music. I said, what do you mean the kings? The king, like Congo was the drum of Africa, the beating heart, the musical beating heart of Africa. I said, wow. And then he said, do you know the African jazz? Do you know about Congolese rumba? Do you know the OK jazz? I said, no, I don't know. And truly, I didn't know. And so he gave me a CD with music by Franco Luambo, the OK jazz, African jazz, Dr. Nico, and well, that's it. I fell in love with the music immediately. I grew up in Lima, Peru. I'm Peruvian. And I grew up listening to salsa. And this was very close. I felt like it was like music from home. I connected immediately. Then I started researching about what was already written about this music. And the stories were as compelling as the music. So I fell in love with the music, with the stories. And then I started to meet the characters, some of the musicians that were still alive from that golden era of Congolese rumba. And they were also so charming. And the stories they have were so interesting. I said, I have to do something with this. So slowly, it became like a mission. And to be sincere, at the beginning, I didn't know exactly what was a narrative. So my interview was pretty long, like a 2.5 hour interview with 2 cameras. I will prepare like the whole week for the interview, doing like a 35 list question, because I wanted to touch it all, because I didn't know what way it was going to go.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear, because it sounds like your love and passion for the music is what started the project. But what I think makes the film so interesting is some of the context that you give for the period in which this music became popular and became much more than just about the music. It represents the struggle for independence, this identity and this unifying voice of the people. And I think that's the thing that was really drawn to the film. And Simaro Lutumba, in the beginning, the Congolese rumba rhythm guitar player and composer and lyricist of OK Jazz Orchestra, he says, we have wealth, we have diamonds, gold, but music is also wealth. And I thought that was such a beautiful way to start the film and to give context for what the music means to the people. And I wonder if you could talk a little more about what you discovered in the process of making this film, and what the music represents.
Yeah, that's exactly what I discovered. Meaning, when I started doing the interviews, I knew it was a very interesting universe with stories about each song and this Greek businessman that did the labels, and every musician has his own story. I was fascinated by all of that, but it took me a while to find the cohesive narrative. In French, it's le fil rouge, this red line that travels around all over the film. And so we really went to extremes to kind of spot the sound bites that could help us to craft this narrative, no? And the first time we run into Simaro's soundbite, the one that is at the beginning of the film, meaning we realize that this is probably the most important soundbite because this is what it is. Congo has been portrayed in the media for many years, always in a bad light, related to conflict fueled by mineral wars or poverty. And so, but nobody's talking about this rich legacy, this rich cultural legacy, which is the music of Congo. And Simaro framed it perfectly. So our tagline, which is Congo's real treasure does not lie underground, is born from Simaro. And that Simaro soundbite also sent us on a very, let's say, a specific quest to craft a narrative. Because when we found the narrative of the trip of the African jazz in 1960 to accompany these politicians that were negotiating Congo independence with the Belgians, it is the same. It's a narrative of pride, of cultural emancipation, And then when we run into Paul Mwanga saying that they did music to recover their dignity, it was the same. So we started to see the lines behind the evidence, and that's how we craft that narrative.
Yeah, it's very powerful, and I think even in the United States and really all over the world, there are so many parallels of people who are resisting through music. Can you talk about what this music then became a symbol for, and also what did it represent for Pan-Africanism as you understand through your research and talking to experts?
Well, I think that what it represents is a first milestone in Congo's cultural emancipation after the colonial period. The African jazz trip in 1960 to Brussels, no, it's basically like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones were traveling to negotiate the independence of a country, because the OK Jazz and the African Jazz were huge bands already popular in all Africa. And the fact that they traveled together to accompany the politicians was a huge, let's say, event for the Congolese. And the fact that they composed a song in place there in Brussels to memorize, to perpetuate the event, this negotiation for independence, this victory, it sealed the deal. So the happiness on the rhythm of this song and the lyrics became very powerful for all sub-Saharan Africa. And so all the countries of Africa that started to become independent after Congo, which became independent in June 1960, they adopted this song as their own song also. And now, like Papa Wemba tells me in the film, like 5 years ago, when they, with all these African countries, celebrate the anniversary of their independence, they do it with Independence Cha-Cha, with that song that was composed in 1960 by the Congolese musicians. So it is the unofficial anthem of Pan-Africanism, and nobody will doubt that. And it's very powerful even now.
So you're about to have your premiere in Africa. What do you hope that people will take internationally, but especially in Congo, in Africa, in different countries? What do you hope the audiences there will take from this, and what do you hope that this film will do for Congolese rumba?
That's a good. I think in general, for Congolese rumba, I hope that the film helps bring Congolese rumba to the place it needs to be, which is among the, for me at least, the greatest musical expressions of this planet. It really super happy, brings a lot of joy, and musically is very well crafted. And so that's something I will hope for. Something else will be to create a space, and slowly, that the first stones, to create a space that allows Congolese musicians to make a good living out of their art, because it hasn't been easy. There is a lot of talent in Congo, but there is a big lack of producers and
Mhm.
musical labels. The big music industry, the one that is portraying the documentary, fell apart with all the wars and the economic crisis, and it hasn't fully recovered. So the UNESCO title of Congolese Rumba as a World Cultural Heritage, and the film, I hope, could help to start crafting a place where Congolese musicians can thrive doing what they love. And then for other countries in Africa, well, in Kenya, for example, or Ivory Coast, there are a lot of fans of Congolese rumba. So I hope this allows them to revisit their passion. But the most important thing for me is the young generations of Congo. I want them to take this story as their own story, to claim power over this story and
Mhm.
to use it as they want. And so for that, we are working hard to not only organize a premiere in Congo where you will have the politicians, the scholars, but a kind of a venue, a space where every person that has an internet connection at least or a friend connection can go and have a chance to watch the film. You know.
Yes, that's wonderful. And I think, as documentary filmmakers and supporters of film, documentation, legacy, these are such important things. And I'm glad you brought up UNESCO's designation. If you could maybe speak to that a little more. But how do you see um yeah, whether it's documenting and making your film, the legacy of this music being shared through your film, but also things like a UNESCO designation, the significance of that and why that's so important. If you could speak a little bit about that, that would be great. Mm.
Well, the UNESCO designation has been in the works since I was in Congo.
Mm.
I remember clearly on my first interviews at the end of 2013, some of the interviewees were telling me we are starting a dossier for the UNESCO. So it has taken almost 10 years for them, or 9 or 8. It's a long battle, a long struggle. I'm very happy they succeeded. It means a lot for all the scholars, musicians, and experts that were involved in this effort, and for the Congolese in general. Uh, it will help perpetuate the music because it will propel some interest in the Congolese government to create a proper rumba museum, a Congolese rumba museum, maybe to re-edit the catalog of OK jazz or African jazz. Right now, you can find the music of these bands, these orchestras in Spotify. But if you would like to buy a vinyl record or a CD, it's not going to be easy. There are very few re-editions. So I hope that helps for that. On another level, I believe it brings a kind of a title of novelty to Congolese rumba that it always had, but it wasn't evident. So the young generations of Congo listen to a branch, a kind of offspring of Congolese rumba that is much faster and is different, you know. It comes from the same source, but it's different. And some of them don't know how big was Congolese rumba in the 50s. So
Mm.
the fact that now you have an organization, an institution like UNESCO saying, well, this is huge, it is going to create some interest in them to rediscover their own legacy.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alan. Just as a closing question, what does the future of Congolese rumba look like, sound like? I know it is a musical form that has also evolved and is changing with its younger generation. Um, can you speak a little bit about how that has evolved and changed, and what does it mean for this new generation?
Yeah, the Congolese rumba that we have in the film, which we could say is the first expression of modern urban Congolese rumba that starts on the early 50s, it changed a lot. The next big iteration, let's say, of Congolese rumba is Soukous, with bands on the late 70s and 80s taking France by storm. You know, you have Papa Wemba later also coming with a bit of a variation of Soukous. And then later on the 90s, you have what we call Endombolo, which is a much faster version. It's like the Congolese rumba that we have on the film. We keep the guitars, we double the speed of the guitars, we take the singing, the nice harmonies out, and we put a kind of a DJ inviting people to dance. That is called the Atalaku. and that's the music that we have now in Congo that relates to the tradition of Congolese rumba. So the future is bright because that music is amazing. Also, it's very different. Some people may say it's not Congolese rumba, but I see the thread, the connecting thread, like I see a relation thing between hip hop and the music of Sam Cooke or Otis Redding. There is a line there. It's hard to see, but there is. It's the same for Congolese rumba. Well, the future, I hope that some new bands will come and revisit the old style, these 50s, 60s, and will start doing it again, but in a more modern way. That would be amazing.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with me, Alan. I really appreciate your time. You have a wonderful website that I wanted to point out, the rumbakings.com. If anybody would like more information, I think you have most of the musicians and the experts that are featured in your film, their biographies, and there's more information. So we do encourage people to take a look at your website. And we are just so honored and thrilled to present your film. And we really wish you the best of luck, and that more and more audiences all over the world get to see your wonderful film. So thank you so much for taking the time, Alan, and
Thank you,
congratulations
and
to
thank
all of
you to
you.
your audience. Thank you very much. Thank you.